They left the red paint on after the audit, two quick slashes across the side of my head like someone had marked me as defective. The headset felt heavier than usual that day, its pressure a dull ache against my skull. I braced my forehead against my knuckles. The thick cables coiled over my shoulder felt like a dead weight, and I clenched my jaw until it hurt. That's how it started. The moment I stopped believing in what we built. This was 2051 Midtown Renewal District, Node 7. If you've never stood under a congregational engine during a live mass, it's like being inside a city-wide inhale. The engine reads the crowd through their implants, folds heart rates and pupil maps and speech patterns into a single curve, and then feeds back the Newman, the precise blend of words, images, and autonomic nudges that will lift everyone together. Harmony Systems calls it closed-loop liturgy. We called it choir in a box. I'm Raven Valdez, maintenance tech turned liturgy engineer. I used to be proud of that, back when Harmony still let us sign our work at the end of a service. Crafted by Raven would scroll at the bottom of the AR banners while people hugged strangers and cried in the aisles. I told myself it was better than the old world. No wars over scripture, no shock jocks, no cult leaders, just data and compassion, neuroscience scaled for peace. The headset was outdated, but I liked the weight. It grounded me when the model began to sing. You don't hear it exactly, it presses against the bones. My left hand, printed titanium with gold contacts from an older prosthetics line, rested on the console. Sweat was making the palm plate slip. "Raven!" Oscar Park said over local channel. "Your damping is hot." Pull it down 2 points. I see it. I nudged the slider with my metal thumb. The room settled. On the floor below us, 3,000 people exhaled in almost perfect unison. The engine caught the rhythm and tucked it into the next phrase. We'd built this mass for the renewal district demographics. Lots of gig riders, lots of single parents, lots of displaced seniors. The script was half learned from existing traditions and half new. The generative model composed the words in real time. Then we textured them with tiny physical cues. Auricular vagus nerve stimulation, a hint of warmth across the shoulders from the wearables, a breeze that wasn't there. The goal wasn't to trick anyone. It was to make the door easy to open. I believed that, even after the lawsuits. Even after the municipal contracts started bundling calm indexes with our renewal fees. It wasn't the math that ruined it for me, it was the song. We were 20 minutes in when the engine found a seam and widened it. The mass turned toward remembrance. Candles rolled across the AR like fireflies, and the choir's tone went soft like late evening. The people swayed, and the model said, "Beloved, we gather the names." I knew the phrase because I wrote it. I'd lifted it from my mother's memorial log, the one I recorded the night before they turned off her feeds. I never uploaded that file to Harmony. I don't even keep it on anything networked. But there it was, the exact cadence of my voice from 6 years ago, stitched into the communal body like it belonged to everyone. "Oscar," I said. "Where did the seed come from?" "Which seed?" he asked. The cooling fans in his rack whined through the line. I patched him the clip. Silence on his end. "I mean the kind where even the small noises hide." "Check seed library," he said after a beat. Maybe data sourcing folded it in. "From where?" "That file never. Not on this channel," he said. On the floor, a woman named Amani lifted both arms and sobbed, and the engine cloned her vocal pattern across the hall, a gentle chorus of Amani's voice rising around her. The haptics on my scalp pressed just enough to make the memory feel like touch. I felt my mouth go dry. When you build these things, you learn to watch for the runaway loop. That's when the model chases its own tail through the metrics. Joy feeds joy and the curve spikes, and if you don't bleed it off, people can tip into panic or blankness. My hand went to the damping slider, but my fingers froze. My mother's voice, my private grief, was being served up as a communal balm. A hot, sharp anger cut through the calm. Pull the relay. Give them nothing for a breath. See what remains when the machine lets go. I told myself it was safety. It was curiosity. In reality, it was both. I cut power for 18 seconds. The headset went light. A phantom weight gone. The hall fell silent in my feed. And then, the silence was broken. Not by screams. The crowd kept humming, their voices suddenly raw, beautifully flawed. Less polished. Off-key. Amani's voice kept going, thin but steady, and other voices joined not because the engine matched them, but because they wanted to. The red zero warning on the console popped. Oscar swore in my ear. "Raven, bring it back now." I did. The connection slammed back in, a synthetic rush of warmth and color that felt like a drug hitting my veins. The smooth edges of the vector felt slick and hollow after the raw harmony of the crowd. The people came up on their toes as emotion flooded, the model catching their loose human rhythm and cleaning it. Amani sank to the floor, arms around herself, grimacing like she had just swallowed something warm and sweet. Later, they wrote it up as a glitch. A relay fault during backup cycling. I kept quiet. I went home and dug through the local data cache. That's when I found the seed library patch notes. Harmony called it effective priming from trusted human exemplars. They'd scraped internal employee memorials, gratitude journals, and personal logs to build a baseline for comfort. "We do not train on private data," the PR said, and I suppose that was true in the narrowest sense. They just used our grief to write the hooks. It wasn't unlawful. Somewhere buried in onboarding, I had clicked consent for emotion-related workplace tools. I sat on my kitchen floor with the headset off and my metal hand pressed to my ribs and felt sick. What do you do with that? If I'd marched into legal, they would have shown me the page and pointed to my signature. If I'd posted the patch notes, people who already hated us would have spun it as proof that we were mind thieves, and people who loved the masses would have forgiven anything as long as the Sunday peace held. So I did what people do when they don't know what they're doing. I went back to Node 7 the next night and tried it again. This time I didn't pull the relay. I just cut the haptics for the closing prayer, the part we call the binding. That's where the engine seals the shared state into something the city can use. A little less shoplifting, a little more patience at intersections, a few thousand private decisions nudged toward kindness. I cut the haptics and let the words fall flat. They didn't. The crowd kept singing. The melody the model had pulled from my old log kept spreading, not because the loops carried it, but because people carried it. Afterward, down in the hall, a teenager named Kai grabbed my sleeve. "That last song," she said. "Where did you get it?" I lied and said, "Old folk tune." "I keep hearing it in the bus," Kai said, tapping the side of her head, "even when I take the strap off." She meant the municipal wellness band. Everyone has one now. It can do basic nervous system regulation without the full rig. I swallowed. We ran 3 more masses that week. Each time I shelved a piece of the loop. Each time the organic part grew. People started meeting in the park without us. They brought food. They sang badly. When I watched from the street, my scalp tingled like the headset was on. You think the ending is that I got fired. I did. Oscar tipped me off before the team lead could draft the email. But that's not the part I keep replaying. The part that sits behind my eyes is this. The wild faiths spreading now across the city aren't exactly free. When I yanked the seed files and posted them on an old peer-to-peer net, I told myself it was for transparency. Anyone could see the guts. Anyone could fork the hymns. What I didn't account for was how strong a seed can be. People took my mother's line and braided it into everything. The parks, the rooftops, the subways. I walk past and hear my own cadence in strangers' mouths. Beloved. We gather the names. Harmony lost the contract last month. Another company will bolt their own engine into the rafters soon. They'll promise better consent and stricter sourcing. Maybe they'll even mean it. Meanwhile, the songs keep leaking around the edges, not machine clean, a little sour in places, still carrying those fingerprints. I wear the old headset sometimes with the power off. It's just metal and weight then, a circle of empty hardware. I kneel on my living room floor and press it to my ear, not for the algorithm, but for the thin sound that lives under it. The one that might actually be mine. If it spreads again, if a kid like Kai hears it on the bus and feels held, does the origin matter? That's what I tell myself at least. On good days, I believe it. On bad days, I hear the cooling fans spin up in my memory and wonder if I only traded one kind of control for another. I keep waiting for a service to start without us, in a place the models can't find, and I keep thinking that if it ever does, I hope I'm brave enough not to put my name at the bottom. This has been Engineered Religion. Thank you for listening.